I run the Cantor Fitzgerald Relief Fund. I founded it in the days following 9/11 with my brother Howard, who's the chairman of Cantor Fitzgerald. And we founded it in order to take care of the 9/11 families. We lost 658 people, 2/3 of our workforce. And the Cantor Fitzgerald Relief Fund was basically a way that the company and the charity could take care of the families of the employees that were lost that day. By creating a community out of a sea of strangers, because you have to remember that these families, they lost someone at Cantor Fitzgerald. Their loved one was murdered while at work, and they had nothing in common with each other except that. One of the things that we did was we started support groups within the Relief Fund, and we started very specific support groups, because a wife who lost her husband and has young children is different than a wife who has no children, is different than a mother who lost their child, is different than a mother or a father of an unmarried victim, is different than a same-sex partner, is different than a sister. And one of the things that we learned very early on is that there's no hierarchy of grief here. Your grief is your grief. And what happened is that there was one sort of created through this. So if you were a wife with children, you were at the top. And then it was wives without children, and then it was children, and then it was, mothers and fathers, and then it was, and then it was, and then it was, and it was. So if you were a friend or a colleague of someone who died, you didn't feel that your grief was worthy, that you were allowed to have that grief, that you were allowed to. And so we turned around and said, no. You are allowed to have what you feel. What you feel is valid. We understand it. And not only that, we're going to help you by having other people around who know how you feel, who understand how you feel, and who will help you. And one of the things I love is that there's those hundreds and hundreds of charities that have come out of these people. That means that they were strong enough and found the ability to get out of bed and to find that mission larger than themselves, so that they could not only heal themselves, but they could help other people heal. Because you are not alone when something terrible happens. In our case, it was just more public. But bad things happen to everybody. Look, by the time I was 20, both of my parents had passed away, and I had 2 younger brothers. I raised my brother Gary. He was my brother, but he was my child. And so the families knew that we understood because we were one of them. So their pain was our pain. And if those people were hurting as much as I was hurting, then I had to do something to try to help them. And so, and I wrote an Unbroken Bond. I wrote this book so that people would understand not only my story or my brother Gary's story or, Cantor Fitzgerald and Cantor Relief Fund story, but that we could look at how we behaved in all walks of life and learn from it and become better people as we move forward if, God forbid, something like this ever happens again. I have been blown away by the caliber of the women who are speaking here. I mean, I live for the day that we won't need a women's leadership conference, that we will just be part of leadership conferences, that glass ceiling will be broken, and that someone will just say, you are the best person for the job, and whether you are a man, a woman, black, white, Latina, Indian, whatever it is, that you are the most qualified person for the job, and that is all we ever see. If anything that we can do to learn from 9/11 so we are better prepared, and that those in the schools know about this, that's a total win for me. So I am just honored to be a part of this.